I'm first. I got golden rings, you ain't cold as me. On my worst day, I'm frozen dreams, big as overseas. Never quit like some anime. Watch your noses bleed, cause I'm hot.
Hey everybody, what's good? It's your boy Devin. Welcome back to the D3 channel. We are here with a spoiler review of Eternals. If you don't want to be spoiled, again, this is spoiler review. If you don't want to be spoiled and you want to see my spoiler free, that will be towards the end of this video in the suggestion videos, or you can just go to the channel, click videos, and it'll literally be right under this one, and as far as videos and kind of the time date. But we're gonna get into the spoiler review of Eternals, guys. You guys already know my rating of this, 9 out of 10. We're gonna get into it, guys. All right, one of the biggest twists of the Eternals is that everything they're doing is a lie. It is one big false lie created by Arishem, the judge, the big red celestial that we see in this movie, who is kind of the head honcho, the word description in the movie in the beginning is Prime Celestial. So he is kind of like one of the top dog Celestials. He isn't the strongest, I believe. I think there's a Celestial that I think is the strongest Celestial and stuff like that. I think the biggest Celestial out of all of them and everything. I can't remember his name, but I know he's in the comics. But Arishem is kind of almost the leader of the Celestials. Arishem, the judge, is what he's called in the comic, but he just goes by Arishem in this in the movie. But yeah, he basically tells them that the Eternals are lies, basically. And so what the Celestials have been doing and how they've been able to create these galaxies, these suns and these planets and everything is because, it's because each Celestial is tasked with that, but they have to be birthed, they have to be created. And so a Celestial will drop an egg onto whatever planet. And so originally the Celestials created the Deviants to kind of keep whatever that egg needs for nutrients, whatever is going to hinder that at bay, which could be like, for instance, for Earth, in order for an egg to nourish, it needs humans, not as like sacrificial or eating or anything, but it needs the energy of the Earth. It needs the energy of humans, intelligent life. And so anything that would cause a hindrance to the humans repopulating and continuing to grow and build and higher the energy of that intelligence for getting ready for the birth of the Celestial, the Deviants were originally given that task to stop whatever is going to hinder the intelligence that's going to birth the Celestial at bay. But eventually the Deviants end up, hurting not only, the things that are harming whatever they're supposed to protect, but they started harming the things that they were protecting, and it just got so out of control that the Celestials end up creating Eternals. And so in a way, it kind of plays true and false to their story of them fighting the Deviants and stuff like that. But they didn't know that the reason why they were fighting the Deviants was because the Earth that they were on, the planet they were on, would eventually be destroyed by the birth of the new Celestial that is in that core of the planet. And so what happens is that when a planet gets destroyed, because they're linked to the Celestials, they're not destroyed when the planet is destroyed, but their memories get wiped out. And so they go right onto another planet with new memories, don't remember anything from the past. And they've been doing this for millions of years. Ajak even says that she's been the leader and been doing this for millions of years. And so that is kind of the conflict that the Eternals come to, because all they've known is, obeying the Celestials, doing their task, doing their duty. But coming to Earth and realizing the truth, some of them don't rock with that. Some of them love what they built, with the connection and everything that they were given on Earth. and don't want to lose that. And so they, some of them want to defy the Celestials and some don't. And so that's kind of the conflict that you get here in the Eternal movie that I love so much in this movie, that because you really get to see that, and it really poses the question: mortality over morality. What's right now compared to, does it justify killing billions of people just so a celestial can come, be birthed and create a whole nother planet, new life, and repeat the process? Like, it's such an interesting question here, because it really makes you sit there and think, like, there's possibly, a planet that could, be the forefather of anything incredible, anything amazing or whatever, but it might not happen if that celestial isn't born and given that duty. And so it's kind of like, just because we're stopping this planet from birthing a new celestial, that's hindering whatever other future planets or future life that could be made. And so again, that's kind of that question that gets hit here, is that mortality versus morality question, because it really puts it in front. It's kind of like, oh, what are we going to do? Are we going to defy the Celestials, or are we just going to play our role and continue doing what we've been doing for thousands of years? And so that's what made this movie so interesting to me, and it's what I really liked and stuff. And so, Arishem kind of just lays it all out to Cersei, honestly. But one of the reasons why the Eternals had to group together is because we find out that Ajak is killed. Ajak is dead, and so she isn't the most powerful celestial. She isn't the most powerful Eternal out of all of them. She's able to heal, heal wounds and everything, and she's the only one that can speak to Arishem. So, like it shows in the trailer with the little orb that goes into her sternum, not her sternum, kind of her esophagus area or whatever. That is kind of the key for her to speak to Arishem, the judge. And so, she is their leader, but she isn't the most powerful. And so she's quickly killed off. And so, the orb that lets you speak to Arishem goes into Cersei. And so now Cersei is the new leader, but it's almost like Ajak chose Cersei as the next leader, because she is kind of the one that connected with Earth the most, and connected with his people the most. And honestly, Ajak knew the truth behind it all and felt, that this Earth was worth saving and worth defying over. So what we see in the trailer with her talking to Icarus, that is completely a misleading conversation, because she tells Icarus the truth, and Icarus is down for the get down. It's like, yo, peace, while Memorial, let's keep doing this thing. I'm loyal to the Celestials. That's it. Forget everything else. And Ajak isn't down with that. And so Icarus ends up betraying her and ends up getting her killed and stuff. But you don't know that until later on in the movie. But that is why the Eternals are coming together, because they found out that one of their own is killed. And so this goes into the deviants. This is what I was saying, the deviants are kind of underutilized, because one of the deviants has the ability to heal. And so we end up finding out that this specific deviant is able to steal the abilities of the Eternals and use it as its own, and is able to mutate and gift the other deviants other abilities. And so that's why the deviants are kind of going after the Eternals and not the humans in this movie, is because they're trying to get after their powers, their abilities. And so like that, because we end up finding out that the deviants end up finding out the truth and know what's up and isn't down with it at all. That they felt like, yo, we've been used for eons and enough is enough. And so y'all hurt my people because of what we were created to do. And that's not fair. So the deviants end up having their own grudge and their own revenge in the movie as well. But it, like I said in my spoiler free, it kind of gets lost in the grand scheme of things, because it wasn't Like it wasn't a focus. I felt like this movie, honestly, it could have been a two-parter, and I could see this definitely being a sequel. And I think it would have been perfect if the sequel was that we find out the truth at the end, and that there's a celestial birth, a celestial in Earth, and that the sequel will be, all right, we dealt with the deviants. The second movie, how do we deal with this god, this multi-galaxy god that's going to emerge from Earth and destroy the Earth? And I feel like that would have been a great sequel to leave on, but I'm not the one that made the movie, but I just thought that would have been perfect. That would have been an excellent cliffhanger to me, honestly. I love the ending, but I feel like that would have been a great way to really put in scale, like, yeah, the next threat that's on Earth. Like, it'd be crazy, because I think like it would have been so astounding for the mind of the viewer that's watching Disney Plus shows and other future MCU movies to know that, yo, all this is going on, but there's a celestial in our core that can erupt and wake up at any time. Like, I think that would have been really cool, and really like put in the back of our mind, like, when are they gonna find out about this? Who's gonna tell them? But I think eventually, the celestial at the end. So the celestial end ends up waking up and almost coming out of the Earth. Like, we see his head, we see his fingers. Like, Earth was almost gone. And so what they end up doing is that Phastos ends up the guy that is kind of like the technical Eternal, the guy that's like a technical genius. He ends up creating the Unimind, which is a way of being able to use the power that the Celestials gave them and be able to put the Celestial either back to sleep or kill it. And so what ends up happening is that Cersei does something to one of the deviants. Like, her ability is transmutation. So she's able to transmutate anything. She can turn air into water, she can turn wood into metal, stone into diamond, liquid, like anything. That's her ability, but she didn't know that she had it on such a grand scale where she's able to even, because at first she didn't think, I think the thing was that she can only transmutate non-living things. And so she didn't know that she can actually do it if she has enough power, that she can transmutate living things. She just doesn't have that power enough to do it. And so what ends up happening is that towards the end of the movie, they create the Unimind, and that gives Cersei the power to transmutate that celestial into, I think, either stone. I believe it looked like ice at first, but I think as the movie went on, it kind of looked like marble almost in a way or whatever. But she ended up killing a celestial. And so I thought that was like crazy, because it's just like, when you really think about it, who in our roster of superheroes that we've known from phase 1 to now would have been able to stop that? Thor wouldn't have been able to. Hulk wouldn't have been able to. Like, I think honestly Thor is probably like our most powerful. I think maybe even Wanda wouldn't have been able to do anything to a celestial on that grand scale. Like, the most she's done is turn a city, control a city. She's just now starting to get into her powers. I highly doubt that she can go up to a celestial and be like, yo, gone. Like, I don't think so. So the fact that Cersei was able to take down this celestial with the help of everybody was just incredible. And so, but in doing that, in the middle of that, Icarus is true to his cause. He's down to the celestial. So it ends up being, at the end, the Eternals versus Icarus. And so Icarus is basically the Superman of the group. He can fly, he has super strength, he has laser vision and stuff like that. But these other Eternals are no pushovers. They are no joke. They are Eternals for a reason. And they give him the work. Like I said, the speedster, I cannot remember her name. It starts with an M, but I can't remember her name. I'll put some picture somewhere over here when I talk about it. But yo, she gives Icarus the business. Like, she does some super speed stuff that we've never seen in an MCU movie before. Like, they do physics. Like, she's punching Icarus to the like, so she throws Icarus to like some rocks or whatever. Basically, kind of like this kind of like, I wouldn't say a mountain, but almost like this cave wall. But like, she's hitting him so hard that the rocks behind him are starting to heat up because she's hitting him so hard. So it's like he's bouncing against the rocks so hard that it's creating that friction, and you see the rocks in the background start to heat up and melt. Like, dude, she gives Icarus the work, son. Like, it is crazy. Like, I kind of like it. They lose two Eternals in this movie. They lose Ajax and they lose Gilgamesh. And Gilgamesh was that super strength of the Eternals. Like, Icarus has strength, but I don't think Icarus' strength was comparable to Gilgamesh's strength. And so Gilgamesh ends up dying later on earlier in the movie. So I think, like, if he was alive and you had him giving Icarus the work and the speedster Eternal going in, like, bruh, he was getting the business done to him like crazy. And then, so even Phastos was in there because he's technological. And so I think a cool thing they end up showing in this movie at the end was, like, not only is he doing technological stuff like with the ship and like just creating things, stuff like that, whatever, but he can create weapons and stuff like that on him. It's like crazy. Like, he's binding up Icarus to the ground using different things, like holding him while Cersei is kind of dealing with the Celestial and stuff. And so it's alluded to, but I don't know if it's true or not, that, you know, because of Icarus' love for Cersei and the fact that, you know, he had a hand in killing the Celestial with the Unimind, that he ends up flying into the sun, into his own demise. It's kind of like the mythology of Icarus flying too close to the sun. I don't know if he flew too close to the sun. I think we will end up seeing him again. I don't think he's dead. I think they would have showed it if he killed off. Because they really go there in this movie. Like, we see Ajax, deformed body, Gilgamesh. Like, I think if Icarus died, I think we would have saw that happen when he went into the sun. So I think he's alive. I think he just flew past the sun and kind of just went somewhere because he couldn't, you know, be on Earth because of what happened. And so, so I talked about this scene at the end that I couldn't do in a spoiler review, but I can do now, just to show like the grand scale of these Eternals. So Cersei is walking with Dane Whitman, and Dane Whitman, you know, of course, is the Black Knight, but he ends up finding out more about his past, his like history, his family history, and everything. And so he's about to get ready to tell Cersei about the Ebony Blade. And so what happens is that we hear these thunder and lightning and clouds forming up and everything, and you see Arisham's 6 eyes at first, but then he just boom pops up on, like, not on Earth, but by Earth. Like, you can see, like, this isn't just them two seeing him, the world can see him in space. And so he ends up calling Cersei, Druid, and I think Phastos. I don't think he called Camille Namanjani's character. I can't remember if he collected all 4 of those, but just those 3. Or whatever. No, actually he didn't, because he didn't have a hand in it. So that's a little thing as well. Camille Namanjani's character didn't have a hand in them destroying the Celestials, which is another reason why I love the characters so much in this movie, is because even though he's 100% down with the Celestials and what they're doing, he wants no part. He understands. He's kind of like in the middle. He's like in that gray area where he understands what needs to be done with the Celestials, but he also doesn't want the Earth to be destroyed. So he just doesn't do anything. He just kind of just leaves and kind of just be like, you know, whatever happens, happens. And so Arishem ends up taking Phastos, Suri, and Druid and said, you stopped the Celestial, so I'm going to take you and go through all your 7,000 years worth of memories. and I will judge this earth and see if it's worth saving. And then he just disappears with them. That's it. And then it kind of just, the movie just ends there. It's kind of like what just happened. But the part that I talk about is that, like, you're literally seeing Arishem like this, and Earth is literally like this compared to him. Like, it is insane how big these Celestials are. And I just loved how they just played with the scaling of him, seeing him from a Earth point of view. Like, if you just go outside and just see a giant celestial out in space, how big and just incomprehensible how big this guy is. And so that's what kind of ends the movie, is that, okay, that opens up a way bigger issue that's going to happen later on down the line, because he's coming back, and 9 times out of 10 he's going to judge Earth and deem it to be destroyed. So now we have to deal with Celestials that can create galaxies, suns, stars, planets, and stop them from destroying Earth. So we're going to need some heavy hitters on the game, like heavy hitters on the roster, which is why in my spec videos I go so much into the multiverse, because the multiverse is going to be a big help in stopping that, recruiting those heavy hitters, those power hitters that are on a galactic scale, that, you know, have the powers that can rival Celestials, you know, in that way, or at least give them a fair fighting chance. Because we know Falcon ain't enough fighting chance. We know Black Widow, Hawkeye. We know those aren't the heroes that you're gonna call to fight against Arishem or Isan, the Searcher, or anything like that, or any other Celestial. Like, it is crazy what this movie opens up for, and that's what I appreciate it for. The movie is really setting up the grand scheme of things. Like, I think the Celestials are going to be our Thanos of the next phases. Like, these guys are going to be people that we're going to have to deal with, because they're going to keep coming back, and we're going to have to keep dealing with them. But we're going to need people powerful enough to deal with them. And so that's what I just really loved about the Celestials. I can literally watch their clips all day, every day. But yeah, so another thing that I really loved was Angelina Jolie's character. I talked about it in Spoiler Free, but I can talk about it now. What's interesting is that something happens with her where Arishem tries to wipe out her memory, but it fails, and she remembers everything. And so, because the Eternals are created and they're kind of like robots in a way, she gets an overload of flooded memories from thousands upon thousands of years of, you know, being on different planets and doing this and stuff like that. And so it ends up, you know, affecting her to where she, you know, goes crazy and goes mad, because her mind can't, you know, her mind is scrambling. It doesn't know, you know, she doesn't know who she is. She doesn't know what's going on. So her eyes go completely white, and she just starts fighting anybody and everybody. And so it was kind of cool to see that Gilgamesh was kind of the only one that can really put up against her, because he had the strength and he had the armor and stuff like that, the armor ability and stuff like that, to kind of go hand in hand with her and stop her or whatever. But she is literally kind of the goddess of war. And so, you know, she's no pushover when it comes to it. She can literally summon any type of weapon, create any type of weapon and stuff. So, like, she is formidable and kind of hard to deal with and stuff. And so that's what I really loved about her character, because you see the struggle and stuff, and it really kind of puts a hindrance on them fighting the, you know, fighting the deviants and stuff, because she's afraid that she can't use her powers and can't fight anymore, because she can go and flip the switch and start attacking them at any moment. And you don't want that. You don't want her fighting you while you're fighting a deviant at the same time. Like, that's way too much. And so I do appreciate that they do kind of put her kind of in the background in a way of, like, you know, if we had her fighting the deviants, it'll be a one and done deal. Like, we can handle this like that. But the fact that she's gone and we really only have Gilgamesh, and that isn't fast, and it's just super strong. It can keep him at bay. But you got Icarus that can fly and do lasers, but he isn't super. He doesn't have the strength of Gilgamesh. So it's kind of like each of their powers kind of compensate for each other's weaknesses or whatever. And so that was really interesting. And you just get so much, kind of story, even Sprite, where her being in love with Icarus, but because she's Erisham created her in a childlike body, she can never grow up. So she can never be with Icarus. And so even, seeing how she's tormented for thousands of years with that, because she hates that she's in this childlike body, but she wants to be with Icarus, but can't because, that would just be, weird and stuff. And so she's jealous of Cersei and, wants to do anything for, Icarus, but ends up, Cersei at the end ends up taking her eternal abilities away and makes her a human. And so now she can grow old and grow older and stuff like that. So it makes sense because, that actor will grow older and stuff like that. So, it will make sense to kind of just have her as a one and done deal in the movie and stuff. So I will say when it comes to the keys and comics of the Eternals, I definitely would say be careful with some of the keys that you do get. I did talk about trying to get them in the beginning because we didn't know how the movie was gonna play out. But Ajax is gone, and then Gilgamesh is gone. So definitely, I know Ajax is in Eternals 2, but it has a Celestial, so it's kind of a double key. So you want Eternals 2 just because it reveals the Celestials in it and stuff. But the movie is just crazy. So let's talk about the post-credit scenes and the mid-credit scene. So the mid-credit scene is who did she take? No, she did take Camille. Erisham did take Camille. He took Camille, Cersei, and Phastos because Druid, the speedster, and Athena left to go find other Eternals. So that was another thing that the movie ended up opening up later on for the MCU is that Druid, the speedster, and Athena left on the ship to go find other Eternals to give them the message to reveal the truth to them that, hey, what you've been doing isn't the truth and stuff. And so they're on the ship, and so they end up seeing this teleport portal kind of get blinking in and out or whatever, and we end up seeing Pip the Troll, voiced by Patton Oswalt. And so that was just great. That was incredible. But we end up seeing Eros, the brother of Thanos, played by Harry Styles of One Direction. Definitely didn't see that. I didn't see that coming at all. And so he ends up telling that, saying that, hey, I'm the brother of Thanos and everything. But, Thanos and Eros and everything are part of that Eternals lore because, they were created by the Celestials. I think Thanos was more the deviant gene, and Eros is more like the Eternals, human-like. And so I guess technically you can say that Eros is an Eternal. And so, but he ends up holding the orb that's the same orb that Ajax had in her esophagus and Cersei has in her esophagus. The same orb that lets him talk to whoever Celestial. I don't know if Erisham is kind of the go-to Celestial or if they talk to different ones. But he says, hey, you're looking for your friends. I know where we can go. And that kind of ends off the mid-credit scene. So that opens up so much because we know Pip the Troll is more along with Adam Warlock. We know Eros, gets the name Star Fox and joins the Avengers and everything. So it just opens up a lot. So then the end credit scene is Dane Whitman, Kit Harington's character, getting his family heirloom, the ebony blade, and opening it up. And it's about to touch the blade and grab it. And then we hear a voice that said, "Are you sure about that, Mr. Whitman?" And then he turns around and then it just fades to black. We have no idea who that is. But Chloe Zhao actually in an interview confirms that that voice is Blade, Mahershala Ali's Blade, which is crazy. I would have never assumed, I would have never thought that Blade would be the one that, you know, confronts Dane Whitman about the Ebony Blade. But so in doing that, I can see how they would do Blade. So I think with Blade, what they're going to do is that Blade, you know, because in kind of the lore of Blade, he was born somewhat in kind of the modern era of time. And so I think what they're going to do with Blade is that I think they're going to make him like a few hundred years old. Not as old as the Eternals, but I think he's going to be a few hundred years old where he's met some of Dane Whitman's ancestors of the Ebony Blade. So he's well known, like well versed in the Ebony Blade, what it can do and everything and stuff like that. And so like, because I think, you know, maybe the movie Blade will kind of go back and forth, maybe in future, like past and present, but it might be a past thing where we see Blade in kind of a, you know, way before, you know, hundreds of years ago, and is fighting with maybe the first Black Knight or something like that, and it's just like, look after this blade for me or something like that, and you know, he ends up, you know, watching over the blade, watching over that family generation as they grab the blade and everything. So grab the ebony sword. So I think that's what they're possibly going to be doing with Blade, because it would make sense why he would be the one to talk to Dane Whitman about the sword and like make sure that he, like, are you sure you want to grab this? Is that he, one, already knows about the ebony blade, and two, if he already knows what it could do to if he's already like encountered a Black Knight before. And so I think we might be able, I think like in a Blade movie we could see a Black Knight, or maybe his grandfather, or maybe the first Black Knight who was part of King Arthur's Round Table or whatever. But it just opens up so much. But that is my review for this was my spoiler review of Eternals. It is insane what this movie opens up into the MCU. Like it does so much that the movies in the past could never do. Honestly, like I think honestly the phases, we had to get through those phases to get to here for the payoff to be what it was. And I think like if you really sit back and think what this movie opens up, you'll appreciate and understand why this movie gets that 86 audience rating. Because we've seen time and time again, even Watch Mojo has done videos on this, where there's movies that are audience loved compared to critics like flaming, like panning it and stuff like that. So it's like critics aren't always the ones to know, and at the end of the day, you make your own judgment. You go and see the movie yourself and make your own judgment, and let me know, comment below and let me know what you think of the movie and what you think of these spoilers and the things that you saw, and maybe some things I missed, that maybe some Easter eggs that I didn't see and everything, because I'm definitely not the master and know-it-all of Marvel, so I'm learning as you guys are learning. But you know, my mind connects two and two, you know, so I thought I'd share with you guys. But thank you for watching. Again, if you like what you see and you want to see more, click that subscribe button, ring the notification bell, so every single time I drop reviews like this, unboxings and all that, you guys are the first ones to know. And remember to go to rule: collect what you love what you collect. Hit that description below. Click on that Instagram page so you can follow me. I drop stuff in there, discussions, we can chat, message me. I'm always quick to reply to everybody. So thank you guys, thank you, and I will see you guys later.